Holy shit, what a surprise this was. The first and only trailer for this dropped during the Super Bowl said, by the way, this is airing tonight on Netflix right after the game. Blew my freaking mind because I'm a huge Cloverfield fan. I've made videos about the other two Cloverfield movies. 10 Cloverfield Lane was my #1 favorite movie of 2016. Fucking love that movie. So when that trailer dropped during the Super Bowl, you can bet I was like, wait, what the fuck? So now that this movie is out, let's talk about it. The Cloverfield Paradox. So the Cloverfield Paradox is the third Cloverfield movie, and I'm not sure how much of the premise I'm going to explain here, because in true Cloverfield fashion, there's a lot of mystery surrounding it if you haven't watched it yet. The trailer said 10 years ago, a monster attacked New York City in, Cloverfield 1, and now you're gonna find out why. This movie follows a crew of people up on a space station. They got this particle accelerator. They're testing it out in space because it's gonna provide free clean energy for the world. That always goes well. But when the particle accelerator goes off and seemingly makes the Earth vanish out of sight, the crew now has to deal with a lot of weird paranormal shit. And now we have a sci-fi thriller horror movie. And this is the most horror-like of all the Cloverfield movies. I mean, the other two movies dabbled in the horror genre a little bit. Scary monsters and parasites in the first one, and psychological horror in 10 Cloverfield Lane. But in this movie, we got some straight up like alien shit. Like the movie Alien. This movie sometimes reminded me of Alien, but without the alien. I'll admit, there were some scenes in this movie that legitimately scared the shit out of me. Because again, I don't watch a lot of horror. I like the good alien movies, including Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I thought the first 3 Paranormal Activities were pretty cool, and I love It. That's pretty much my experience with horror movies. It's not that much, so anything in this movie that went for the scare, it affected me. What can I say? There were some points where I was sitting there on my bed with my arms wrapped around a pillow, because I was like, what's gonna happen next? The cast in this movie is actually really good, and you got some good actors in here. The main character is Mbatha-Raw, and I really liked her in the TV shows I've seen her in, Touch, Black Mirror. Her character, Ava Hamilton, is the one you're supposed to relate to, because she has a sad backstory, and I thought it was pretty legit. This movie's not getting great reviews, but I didn't think it was that bad. You also have Daniel Bruhl, he's a really good actor, he's good in this movie. Elizabeth Debicki's really good in this movie. The acting is really good, and the visual effects are really good too. For a movie that came out on Netflix, I don't know if it was originally supposed to come out on Netflix. I thought this movie was gonna come out in theaters on April 20th. I have a feeling that it was going to come out in theaters, and then Paramount made a deal with Netflix and said like, hey, you guys take it. But the visual effects are really good. They're not perfect, but they're better than most Netflix original stuff I've seen. As much as I love Stranger Things, this movie had better visual effects than Stranger Things. So is this movie good? Like I said, I didn't think it was that bad, but is it as good as the other Cloverfield movies? No, it's just not. Which is a bummer because the other Cloverfield movies are just fan-fucking-tastic in my opinion. To me, they were just groundbreaking movies. So you can't really blame me for having those ridiculously high expectations for the third Cloverfield movie. And unfortunately, it did fall short. A couple of the problems I had, first off, the writing was sometimes pretty bad. Like something really bad or gross or tragic would happen. And then like the first line you hear afterwards is like, well, that just happened. Like an after the fact kind of joke. It just misfired with me. I'd be like, dude, that just happened. Like, don't make a joke. This is serious shit. That happened a couple of times in this movie. But the thing I think is upsetting a lot of people about this movie is this. Does it tie the Cloverfield universe together? The answer to that question is yes, undeniably. It has connections to both the original Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane. But I feel like the tie-ins this movie has to both of those other movies are too apparent. Like, if you watch 10 Cloverfield Lane, there are really, really, really subtle tie-ins to the original Cloverfield that you really gotta be listening for. And that was it. Other than those really tiny subtle hints, it was pretty much its own isolated movie. This movie is very clearly like, no, this is clearly a tie-in to the other Cloverfield movies. Here's a really obvious tie-in, which at first I was fine with because this is one universe. We should be talking about other shit, like the events of one of the other movies. But at a point I was like, I get it, it's a Cloverfield movie. Can we get back to like the actual crew? The story that's going on in this space station? I feel like the tie-ins were bordering on fan service, and I never thought the Cloverfield movies would go there. So that's the disappointing thing about this movie, and it is a few points off. However, one thing that kicked complete ass in this movie was the score. Again, Bear McCreary did the music. He did the music for 10 Cloverfield Lane and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And the score is great! This guy writes amazing music. Like when the title comes up on the screen, there's this choir that reminds me of Halo. You're like, whoa, I'm in space. It was awesome. I think if he writes one more amazing score of this caliber, he might go up to being one of my favorite composers. Guys, in the end, the Cloverfield Paradox was alright. I wasn't as disappointed by it as a lot of other people were. Maybe it's just because I'm the nice, optimistic guy, and I want to give this movie the benefit of the doubt. But I can't help but notice the flaws in the writing and the really apparent in-your-face tie-ins to the other Cloverfield movies. Those are a few points off, but other than that, the acting's really good, the visual effects are really good, the music is just great. The movie is definitely worth watching, so go check it out, just don't deify it. That's all. So the Cloverfield Paradox. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? And how does it compare to the other two Cloverfield movies for you? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.